This is the brief on AI Decoded. Think of this weekly show as your very own universal translator, taking all that intimidating tech speak and turning it into practical, everyday language for folks without a technical background. First, we need to look at who this is actually for, because their core mission is to make artificial intelligence finally click for non-technical users. Since we aren't all programmers, the show acts as a strict filter for information, which really makes you wonder, if AI systems are so profoundly complex, how accessible can they genuinely be for an absolute beginner? Well, second, we see how the two hosts answer that by aggressively filtering the noise, separating what's actually useful.
So, imagine you wake up and you have, like, 17 urgent tasks waiting for you.
Oh, yeah. The absolute worst way to start a Monday.
Right. And to make it worse, you have this draft of an email to your landlord just, sitting in your outbox because you're terrified. It sounds way too harsh.
Yeah, you keep rereading it.
Exactly. And on top of that, there's a client you've been ignoring for, 9 days because finding the exact right words to follow up just feels like a puzzle you do not have the energy to solve.
And the crazy part is you aren't physically tired.
No, not at all.
You're suffering from what we call translation layer exhaustion. It's this profound, invisible weight.
Right.
It's that constant grinding friction between knowing what you need to do or, what you need to say and the actual mechanical effort of getting it out of your brain and onto a schedule or a screen.
And that translation layer is exactly what we are dismantling in this deep dive today. Because if you are listening to this, you are probably a learner. Someone who is constantly trying to absorb new info, juggling a bunch of projects, different perspectives, and just, a really busy life.
Yeah, you're juggling a lot.
Right, and you're probably desperate for a shortcut, a way to get out of that purely reactive firefighting mode and step into something actually intentional.
Which is where the strategy comes in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we are looking at how to use Claude, not to write code or build a massive website, but to offload the daily cognitive tax of organizing your time and your words.
And to really grasp how heavy that tax is, we kind of have to start with time management. Because the anxiety of an unorganized week isn't just some minor annoyance, right?
Oh, definitely not.
It is the loudest background noise in our daily lives. It
Yeah.
literally drains your cognitive energy before you even open your laptop.
So why are human beings fundamentally so bad at just looking at a calendar and figuring it out? Why does the whole Sunday night planning session always fall apart by Tuesday morning?
Well, basically because we are asking our brains to do something they never evolved to do.
Which is what?
Holding too much fragmented data. When you try to plan a complex week, you're demanding that your working memory hold this massive amount of information. And human working memory only has 4 to 7 slots available at any given time.
Wow, just 4 to 7.
Yeah. But a modern work week has dozens of variables. You're trying to hold deadlines, commute times, personal obligations, your energy levels, all in your head.
Right.
And simultaneously, you're asking your brain to make high-level judgment calls about priority and sequence. It's too much.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's basically like trying to schedule a busy week in your head is like playing a game of Tetris.
Mm-hmm.
But all the pieces are invisible until they hit the bottom.
That is the perfect analogy.
You just have no idea how they fit until the board is completely full and the game is over.
Exactly. And so we try to cope with this invisible Tetris by using, a rigid calendar for hard appointments, and then a chaotic, sprawling to-do list for literally everything else.
Right, the flexible stuff, the errands, follow-ups, personal goals.
Yeah, they just float in the ether. And that is exactly where the Sunday evening brain dump changes the game. You completely bypass your working memory limit by just emptying your head into Claude. Completely unfiltered.
No formatting, no organizing.
Yeah, and you just dump the puzzle pieces onto the table.
Okay, let's make this tangible, because I think everyone has experienced a week like this. So imagine it's Sunday night, you open up the prompt, and you just type out the raw reality.
Give me the worst case scenario.
Okay, so you type, I work Monday to Friday, 9 to 6, but with some flexibility.
Standard.
This week, I have a dentist appointment Wednesday at 2 p.m. My kid has a school performance Thursday at 7 p.m. I have a major client proposal due Friday at noon. I need to call the insurance company about a claim that's been delayed for a month. I want to hit the gym 3 times. I promised my partner I'd do the grocery shopping. Oh, and I have a mountain of backed up emails to answer.
Okay, so if a human tries to sequence that just mentally, The working memory bottleneck guarantees they're going to miss a collision, they're going to double book something.
Totally.
But an AI model looks at that paragraph fundamentally differently. It parses all those dependencies simultaneously. It takes that messy, unstructured text and runs what's called a constraint satisfaction process.
Meaning it logically groups things.
Exactly. So first, it groups the errands. It pairs the grocery shopping and the insurance call into a single block to minimize the cognitive cost of context switching.
But, I mean, the real magic isn't just listing the tasks, right? It's how it flags the invisible pressure points.
Yeah, that's the superpower.
Nice.
It looks at the Friday noon deadline for that client proposal, it calculates the average time a proposal takes, and it works backward.
Oh, wow.
So it tells you plainly, like, mathematically, you must start this proposal by Wednesday at the latest, which means Tuesday is your only viable day to gather materials.
That is incredibly specific.
It gets better. It synthesizes variables you probably ignored. It points out that your Thursday night is completely gone because of the kids' school play.
Oh, right.
So whatever grand plans you had to catch up on emails or hit the gym Thursday evening, it mathematically proves they're off the table.
Okay, wait. Let me stop you there and push back on this a little.
Go for it.
Because if I dump all my chaotic tasks into an AI and it spits back this highly optimized, color-coded schedule, does that actually reduce my stress?
You're worried it'll overwhelm you.
Yeah. Like, does it just hand me a terrifying, undeniable list of chores? Like, great, now I have mathematical proof of how doomed my week is.
It's a completely fair concern. But what's fascinating here is that the psychology of anxiety tells a different story.
Yeah.
The anxiety doesn't actually stem from the volume of work.
It doesn't.
No, the exhaustion comes from the unknown. It's that nagging subconscious dread that you're forgetting a critical deadline or that your priorities are just fundamentally broken.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. When you get that concrete visual layout, you eliminate the unknown. You shift out of a reactive state where you're constantly surprised by Thursday rolling around and into an intentional state. You can actually see the landscape.
Well, assuming the landscape can actually be changed.
Yeah.
Because a static calendar is completely useless the moment a single meeting runs late.
Exactly. Which is why the conversational aspect of the interface is the critical mechanism. This isn't a calendar app that locks you in.
So you can just talk to it.
Yeah. Let's say Claude parses your week and schedules 3 heavy administrative tasks for Monday morning, because mathematically that's the most logical time constraint.
But nobody wants to do admin on a Monday morning.
Right. You know that Monday morning is your peak biological time for deep creative work. So you just reply, hey, protect my Monday mornings for deep work. Push the admin tasks to Tuesday afternoon.
Well, that's easy.
Or if it schedules a gym session for Friday evening, and you know from years of experience that you are practically comatose by Friday night,
Guilty.
you just tell it to reschedule based on your actual energy levels.
So you're basically taking a purely mathematical puzzle solution and filtering it through the messy reality of the human condition.
Exactly. You are iterating. And that iteration leads to the most important question. What happens when the math truly does not work?
Ah, the dreaded impossible week.
Yes, where the variables literally exceed the available hours.
We have all been there. It's the week where 3 projects collide, a pipe bursts in the kitchen, and something simply has to give.
And in those moments, human beings tend to panic and freeze. We just let things fall through the cracks by accident.
Yeah, just drop the ball.
But an LLM acts as a completely bias-free reasoning engine. It has absolutely no emotional stake in your to-do list. You simply tell it, look, this won't all fit. Here are the absolute constraints. Here's what cannot be moved. And here are the consequences if I drop the rest.
And it just figures it out.
It objectively weighs the trade-offs. It gives you the space to make an active, intentional choice about what gets delayed or canceled, rather than suffering the guilt of an accidental failure.
That shift from accidental failure to active choice is huge for mental health. But let's pivot for a second, because the translation layer isn't just about the friction of time.
Not at all.
It's equally about the friction of words.
Yeah.
The exact same bottleneck that makes scheduling a nightmare is what causes the blank screen problem.
Yes. The hidden tax of communication.
We all know the feeling. You need to write a sensitive email.
Yeah.
You open a new window. You type the person's name. And then you just stare at the blinking cursor, completely paralyzed.
And that paralysis happens because translating a raw thought or an emotion into appropriately toned text is a highly specialized skill. We assume that just because we know how to talk, we know how to write.
Right, which is so not true.
Exactly. Mapping semantic tone, figuring out how a specific word choice will be received by someone sitting in a different room, maybe in a bad mood, is incredibly difficult.
You know what you want to achieve, and you know the audience. But finding the exact right register requires a huge amount of mental effort.
It really does.
It's like drafting these kinds of emails feels like playing with a communication thermostat. You bump the language up just 1 degree to sound a little more authoritative, and suddenly the entire room is boiling and you've irreparably damaged a professional relationship.
That thermostat analogy perfectly captures the stakes. Think about the everyday tightropes we are forced to walk.
Like what?
Like, you need to message your landlord about a broken heater. You have to be firm, or they'll ignore you, but you cannot be hostile because they literally hold the keys to your home.
That's a tough balance.
Or you need to ask a senior manager for time off. It needs to be professional, but if it's too rigid and formal, it sounds bizarrely defensive.
Yeah, or nudging a client who went dark on a proposal.
Yeah.
You need a yes or no answer, but you cannot come across as desperate or aggressive.
Exactly. So how do we move from the theory of the thermostat to actually turning the dial?
Right. What is the practical mechanism for using an AI to solve this?
The formula is surprisingly simple because the complexity is handled under the hood. You just explain the situation, the audience, and the desired outcome, just as if you were talking to a close friend over coffee. You don't need highly engineered technical prompts.
Okay, let's look at a specific scenario. Think about this. You are a small business owner. You rely on a specific supplier who has been fantastic for years, but over the last 2 months, their deliveries have been late and incomplete.
A classic problem.
Right. And it's starting to seriously impact your bottom line. So the problem absolutely must be fixed today. However, you deeply value the long-term relationship. You know, they might just be going through a rough patch, and you do not want to burn a 5-year bridge over a 2-month slump.
So if a human sits down to write that email, they're going to spend 20 to 30 minutes drafting, deleting, pacing around the room.
Stressing over whether a phrase like unacceptable delay is too aggressive.
Right. Or if hoping we can fix this is way too passive, the translation layer is completely jammed.
But if you bypass that layer, you just dump the raw context into the AI. You type, supplier has been great for 5 years. Last 2 months, deliveries are late. My business is hurting. I need them to fix it immediately, but I really want to preserve the relationship. Write an email that is firm about the problem, but warm about the partnership.
And because an LLM is essentially a vast map of semantic relationships, it understands that delicate space between firm and warm.
It just gets the nuance.
It does. It hands you a draft that perfectly balances that tension, and from there, you just iterate. If the opening paragraph feels a bit too formal for someone you've known for 5 years, you just type warm up the opening.
Or if it takes too long to get to the actual problem.
You say get to the point faster in paragraph 2. 30 seconds of prompting, and you have exactly what you needed.
The emotional relief of that is staggering. I mean, look at a manager we can call James. James is brilliant at his core job, but he thinks out loud. He's a verbal processor.
Right. Some people just aren't writers.
Yeah. And when he tries to type, his emails either come out freezing cold and clinical, or they ramble so much the point is entirely lost. And James needs to address slipping performance with a junior team member.
Oh, the conversation absolutely every manager dreads.
Completely. And James spent 2 full weeks paralyzed by the blank screen.
2 weeks?
2 whole weeks.
Deep.
Every day, he would type a draft, worry it sounded like a legal threat, delete it, soften it, realize it was now so soft it had no impact, and delete it again. 2 weeks of carrying that low-grade anxiety home with him every single night.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. Finally, he dumps the raw context into the prompt. The employee's history, the specific missed targets, what needs to change, and crucially, how he wants the employee to feel supported after reading it.
And let me guess, the AI handled it.
30 seconds. The AI generates a structured, empathetic draft. James spends 12 minutes adjusting a few phrases to match his natural vocabulary and hits send.
So he spent 12 minutes solving a psychological burden that had paralyzed him for 14 days. That is the ultimate proof of the translation layer bottleneck. The bottleneck wasn't his management skill. It was literally just the mechanical labor of word finding.
Oh, wait. Let's really interrogate this for a second.
Okay.
If we are all just sitting at our desks asking an algorithm to make this warmer or make this sound empathetic, aren't we just outsourcing our empathy? Do we lose our own voice and just become a society of polite robots emailing other polite robots?
I hear that all the time.
Doesn't the struggle of finding the words actually build the relationship?
It's the most common philosophical pushback, but I think it fundamentally misunderstands where the actual human value lies.
How so?
Because the empathy doesn't live in the vocabulary, it lives in the intent. The AI doesn't decide your boundaries with your landlord. It doesn't decide the performance standards for James's employee. You're making 100% of the human judgment calls.
Right, you're deciding what actually happens.
Exactly. You own the empathy. You are simply offloading the exhausting mechanical labor of mapping those judgments to a linguistic framework.
Okay, I like that.
Think of it like a kitchen. The AI is the sous chef who chops all the vegetables and preps the sauces. But you are the head chef. You determine the menu, you taste the food, and you decide if it leaves the kitchen.
Which brings up a phenomenal pro tip for anyone listening who wants to actually improve their own head chef skills. It's the before and after technique.
Oh, this is my favorite strategy.
It's so good. So let's say you already have a draft that you wrote yourself. You read it, and your gut tells you it feels off, but you don't know why.
Yeah.
You paste your draft into the AI and simply say, fix the tone of this to be more collaborative. But crucially, and this is where the real value is, you ask it, explain exactly what you changed and why.
That prompt is a masterclass in communication. Because the AI won't just hand you a new draft, it acts as a communication coach.
It tells you why you sounded like a jerk.
Exactly. It breaks down its semantic choices. It might tell you, hey, I removed the word unfortunately from your second sentence because starting a paragraph with unfortunately immediately puts the reader in a defensive posture. I replaced it with a neutral statement of fact.
It completely reveals the hidden mechanics of language.
Yeah.
You aren't just getting an email written for you. You're actually learning how to be a better communicator the next time you sit down to write.
Exactly. You are training your own translation layer.
So if we are going to start utilizing this technology, dumping our chaotic weeks, our difficult workplace conflicts, and our sensitive conversations into a prompt window, we have to establish the absolute rules of engagement.
Yes, guardrails are essential.
Because integrating an AI into deeply personal tasks carries significant risk. So let's start with privacy.
Privacy is the foundational guardrail. Anthropic, the creator of Claude, operates with specific data policies. And a major feature is that the consumer interface does not store conversational memory between your distinct chats. When you open a new session, it is a completely blank slate. It doesn't remember your landlord's name from yesterday.
I mean, relying on a corporate privacy policy isn't an excuse to abandon common sense.
Far from it. You must treat this like any internet-connected digital tool. If you are drafting an email about a highly sensitive legal dispute, a medical issue, or a financial transaction, you must anonymize the data before it ever touches the prompt.
Right. Keep the details vague.
You describe the structural dynamic, not the confidential details. You never input an employee's social security number, proprietary company code, or specific banking information. You use placeholders.
Protect your own data.
Always.
The second major guardrail is accuracy. Because we know that large language models are prone to hallucinations. They can misread ambiguity, invent facts, or just confidently fail at simple logic.
Which is exactly why the sous chef analogy is so vital. If you ask the AI to map out your week and you blindly trust the output, you are going to face disaster.
Yeah, what if it misread an appointment for 7 a.m. instead of 7 p.m.?
Exactly. What if it assumed a 2-hour drive was only 20 minutes? You are the director in this dynamic. The final critical check remains entirely human.
You have to double-check the work.
You must aggressively review the schedule before you commit to it. You must read every single word of an email before you hit send. The goal of the tool is to make your review process faster and easier, not to remove your brain from the loop entirely.
And the quality of what you are reviewing really comes back to the oldest rule in computer science, right? Garbage in, garbage out.
It is the absolute truth. The richness and utility of the output is mathematically tied to the honesty, vulnerability, and detail of your input.
So if you just say, do this, it won't work well.
Right. If you open a prompt and just type, plan my week, providing zero context about your energy levels, your constraints, or your goals, the AI will hand you back generic, useless fluff.
Makes sense.
Or if you say, Write a firm email to my boss with no background on your relationship or company culture. It will write a polished version of absolutely nothing.
So you have to invest that initial 60 seconds to brain dump the real messy human context.
Yes.
The more constraints you provide, the better the puzzle is solved. And that leads to the final, perhaps most important rule of engagement, understanding the fundamental difference between the thinking layer and the executing layer.
This is where people usually trip up. Claude is a thinking layer. It's a sandbox for cognition. It is not an execution layer.
Meaning, the temptation to fully automate your life is kind of a trap. You don't want the AI actually pulling the trigger.
Precisely. Claude is not a calendar app. It does not magically sync to your Google Calendar. It does not integrate with Outlook to automatically fire off replies. And honestly, you shouldn't want it to.
Because you lose control.
Exactly. You do the messy experimental thinking, the prioritizing, and the tonal drafting within the safe confines of the AI sandbox. Once the plan is logically sound, or once the email strikes the perfect chord, you manually move that data.
You type the appointments into your calendar yourself.
Yes. You copy and paste the text into your email client. That manual transfer is your final safeguard. It's your moment of deliberate human execution.
So what does this all mean? When you zoom out and look at all of these mechanisms together, it becomes incredibly clear that the true superpower of this technology is not about executing some glamorous, futuristic project.
It really isn't.
It's remarkably grounded. It is the steady, quiet accumulation of 100 small moments of relief. It's turning a 20-minute, sweat-inducing email draft into a 5-minute review task.
Yep.
It is turning a chaotic week of low-grade, simmering anxiety into a calm, 10-minute Sunday evening ritual where you finally see the board clearly.
It systematically removes the friction from the tasks that drain our cognitive energy without providing any actual meaning or fulfillment to our lives.
Yeah, so for the learners listening right now, here is your call to action. Take one real problem this week. Just one. Do not invent a hypothetical test.
Pick a real pain point.
Take a messy, overlapping schedule for the next 3 days. Or take that one specific, terrifying email you have been avoiding sending and bring it to the AI. Put the translation layer to the test with a real problem that demands a real solution and watch what happens to your mental bandwidth.
And as you run that experiment, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder.
Let's hear it.
We spend so much of our daily lives exhausted by the mere mechanics of existing in a modern world. If an AI can finally take over the exhausting mechanical labor of translating our intentions into schedules and emails, what previously dormant human skills will you finally have the cognitive energy to develop?
Well, that's a great question. Think about that the next time you feel that heavy, unorganized mental friction settling in. Because all those open tabs in your head do not have to stay there. You do not have to carry the weight of the translation layer alone anymore.
This is The Brief on the AI Decoded podcast. AI Decoded is a weekly show that provides actionable tech advice, and today we are looking at their broadcasting footprint and upcoming programming. You know, keeping up with AI tools feels kind of like navigating this dense, totally unpredictable jungle, which is exactly why finding a reliable guide is absolutely crucial. First, where do you find that guide? Well, listeners can expect a new episode every single week, accessible across all major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So why